Want to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for April 2nd, 2018. Our first item of business will be special recognition of the Employee of the Month by our mayor.
If you all will join me down front, we will make a presentation to Ron Bladen in his behalf. What a group. What a group. We're just going to act like you're Scott. Is that okay? Scott Fletcher began work for City of Muskogee in July of 1998 as a maintenance worker one in the Pollution Control Division, working his way up to a water sewer maintenance leader one. Scott enjoys people that he works with, and they have kept him here for the last 20 years. In his free time, Scott likes to play golf, and he does woodworking. Scott spends many evenings and weekends on the country club golf course. His goal this year is to become better than he currently is. In his woodworking hobby, Scott builds items such as tables, desks, and signs that he sells on the side. He has made some extraordinary pieces, including portraits of his children, and has even made a sign for the eye care of Muskogee building. Scott has two children, Austin and Auburn, and has been married to his wife Mandy for almost 6 years. Scott enjoys going to his children's sporting events and cheering them on. Scott was nominated for displaying a positive attitude while getting the job done, even when there are challenges, and he always looks out for his crew. Congratulations, Scott Fletcher, and in his behalf is Ron Bladen, his supervisor, to accept this for him. If you'll go around and shake hands with everybody, we'll just give you the certificate.
We'll have to pass these handshakes on.
Yeah. Dan, you're not going to do a hug?
You didn't act like you wanted.
I want to give you this certificate to pass on to him, and I want to let you have the microphone if there's something you want to say about him that might be special.
Scott's always been a punctual, hard-working employee. He gets along with everyone, and I really appreciate the job he does for me and for the city. He does a very difficult job, and he does it very well.
Thank you. Thank you.
It did. I got some on the front. It's like, yeah.
Back to the regular agenda, item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of March 19th, 2018.
Reviewing the minutes, are there any corrections or additions? Entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments March 15, 2018 through March 28, 2018.
All right, do we have a report from the purchasing committee?
Yes, the purchasing committee did meet this afternoon, and we reviewed claims, and we would recommend move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval to accept the lowest and best bid from First Tier in the amount of $73,868 for emergency management building roof or take other necessary action.
Mrs. Stewart.
Yes, after staff reviewed this, we're going to recommend that all bids be rejected and authorize us to put it back out to bid. Answer any questions if you need to, but that's staff recommendation.
I make a motion that we accept staff recommendation to reject all bids and allow the staff to tighten up the specifications and rebid at a later date.
I'll second that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Once again, this will be to reject the bids. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the month of February 2018 in the amount of $430 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take other necessary action.
Chief.
Mr. Chairman, Council, for the month of February, we received $430 for our spay and neuter program, and I would ask that you accept these funds for that reason.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this item by Chief. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 4 passed, and with that passing, that is the final item on the Finance Committee.
Okay, we'll move on to Public Works Committee this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Public Works Committee. Item number 1.
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of March the 19th, 2018.
Everybody's had time to review them. Do we have any corrections this evening?
Move for approval.
Got a motion to
Second.
approve and a second. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item passes. Item number 2.
Consider approval of Resolution Number 2717 and Resolution Number 2718, declaring 2 parcels of property, more particularly described in the resolution, as surplus to the needs of the city, and authorize the conveyance of said properties or take other necessary action.
Mr. Garvin.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, there's 2 parcels. One is located at 932 South I Street. We received a bid, and only one bid, from Michael Lapp in the amount of $363. We have reviewed the property. We do not feel like this is property we want to consider for land banking, so we are recommending approval of the resolution. The second parcel is located at 1011 South G Street, and the applicant there is Damian and Tanya Wolf. They are requesting the property through the incentive program. If you remember the incentive program, they are required to build a new single-family dwelling on the property, take out a permit within 1 year. And we're recommending approval of that resolution also. Be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the council for to staff?
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Guess one point of clarification. What does that bring our total to for Mr. Hall?
These aren't in that. This isn't in that group.
Okay.
I
Thank-
keep track.
We might want to hear that total anyway, just for fun.
I'm glad to see property getting back on. Item number 3.
Discuss and take action on participating in the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival in the furtherance of Resolution Number 2505, designating the city of Muskogee as a community of practice.
Councilor Marlon Coleman.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Resolution 2505, which we passed in April 2014, established the city of Muskogee as a community of practice. This designation helped us to be recognized as a community and had the shared purpose of understanding poverty and its remediating effects. And we think it's more than appropriate to follow up on that since we are in the 50th year of Dr. King's assassination, with his last effort being the Poor People's Movement. There we pledged to take practical measures to ensure our citizens living in poverty are provided with a voice on health, social, and economic issues that affect them. We also pledged our cooperation with programs such as Bridges Out of Poverty, aimed at transitioning those living in poverty to a state of self-sufficiency through education, job skills, and sustainable communities. Today I'm advocating that we take the next step in what we had already started in confirming our pledge to participate in the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. This campaign was started by Dr. King in 1968 as an intent to dramatize the plight of those of all races living in poverty in the United States who are tired of waiting for a better life. The campaign requires us to recognize the difficulty and necessity of uniting the poor and dispossessed across racial, religious, and geographic lines. The tenets of this campaign advocate for the following: the passage of laws which provide for a living wage for workers, economic development which aids in the creation of good jobs, reformation of the criminal justice system which exploits individuals of color, those who are living in poverty, and the abolition of policies which create inequality among individuals. The prospective effect of these tenets is to shift the narrative from partisan politics to a system that creates real change in one of the richest countries in the world. The Poor People's Campaign fits squarely into our previous pledge to make Muskogee a community of practice. If this item is approved, we will receive practical training materials from the national campaign, which will assist us in adopting policies, practices, and ordinances that will have a real effect on reducing poverty, and will enhance our quality of life among all of our citizens. Poverty has no color. Its offenses and effects are devastating across color lines. Whether you're brown, yellow, black, or white, our common motivation ought to be that every individual, particularly in our area, is able to survive and sustain themselves. I'm going to motion to adopt a pledge of support to participate in the Poor People's Campaign in furtherance of our previous resolution 2505, establishing Muskogee as a community of practice in our efforts to combat poverty. And that would be my motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion?
Who coordinates the activities? Or, I mean, if we're getting materials and stuff, who takes care of implementing that or making that training possible?
The training is provided by the headquarters office, which is led by Dr. William Barber, and he's a Christian evangelical who has taken initiative upon himself to be certain that Dr. King's Poor People's Movement actually moves into a modern time frame. And so once we have this on file that we're in support of it, they make contact through the city, and we'll be able to designate through Mr. Miller who those people will be, set up a committee to be certain that as those materials come in, we're engaged as a city and as a council.
Other questions or comments? I think this just adds to our community of what we are already doing. I think additional training and additional avenues that we can provide to our community. I think there's so much, and I appreciate the support that our council has made from adjusting our water bill rates to our structures that we've provided to our community. I think of just what we've done through legal action and through the nonprofit. There is real change, but this is just one more tool that can help out in our community, and additional training that can help just as another avenue. So I appreciate so much, Councilor Coleman, you bringing this to us, and others that have helped in this avenue. Other comments on this item? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item passes. Item number 4.
Consider approval of resolution number 2719 of the Council of the City of Muskogee, Oklahoma, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the death of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., or take other necessary action.
Again, this item is sponsored by Councilor Coleman. If you would address it, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, April 4th, 1968, the man with a dream fell prey to an assassin's bullet. Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. was a dead body on a Memphis balcony, and a burial site in Atlanta cannot keep the dream from living on. We owe it to ourselves as we move forward into the 50th year of his anniversary to be certain that we lend our voice to be certain that the dream stays alive. 50 years after Dr. King's death, the ugliness of racism persists, but so does our determination to right every racial wrong wherever it exists. Much has been accomplished the last 50 years, but we cannot rest on the pillow of accomplishment while many sleep in the bed of despair. It's more than right that as a city, we adopt this resolution commemorating and recognizing an American hero whose dream of a more perfect America can still be supported. We also have other activities, and I'll yield that part of my conversation to Councilor Reed, that are going to reflect that Muskogee is serious about being certain that we remember the dream, with a tree planting is going to take place this week to be certain that the dream is rooted in Muskogee in a way that we recognize it and also remember the work that has been done. My motion will be to support this resolution to be certain that we keep Dr. Dream's legacy going in all of our practices and ways as a city.
So I have a motion.
Second.
Got a second from Councilor Reed. And Reed, you would like to talk about some of the activities?
Sure. I signed up for 3 minutes, so I'll yield that if I could take this time at this point to make those acknowledgments. As Councilman Coleman stated, a very mixed emotional day as we look at 50 years later, where do we stand as a community, where do we stand as a nation. On that third day of April 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King stood and gave his final speech. He said, I've been to the mountaintop, looked over and seen the promised land. And I've often wondered, what does that promised land mean? What did it look like? What was he seeing? And I think about Muskogee, Oklahoma. Where are we 50 years later? So on April 4th, in commemoration to the death of Dr. Martin Luther King, we're going to plant a tree for generations to come. This tree is planted on the grounds of the only Martin Luther King Center in the state of Oklahoma, so our young people can be reminded that on this great date in 2018, we planted a tree, and we want that tree to grow. We may not be where we should be, but we can grow. And so I invite you to come out on April the 4th, 2018, 50 years from the death of Dr. Martin Luther King, to be a witness as we put this tree in the ground in the hopes that our community will grow in our hearts. The legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King will live on in our works, and our community will be binded together in love as his legacy has led us. 4:30 p.m. on April the 4th.
Thank you, Councilor Reed. I know tree's a good representation. Our community is not where it needs to be, but it truly has grown a long way. Has grown a lot. I appreciate the council as it has supported, as chairman of the Martin Luther King Center, as it has supported the Martin Luther King Center, and as our community has. It is truly a beacon in our community. Any other discussion on this item? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Cale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item passes. Item number 5.
Consider approval of a location agreement between the City of Muskogee and Georgia Pacific LLC for the purpose of authorizing filming of the 2018 Azalea Festival, or take any other necessary action.
Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the city was approached a couple of weeks ago from Georgia Pacific with a request to be able to film some of the citywide activities that are occurring on city property. Their main purpose is to capture activities for which their employees are participating, namely the Cook's Party and the Chili Cook-Off, as well as the Azalea Parade or any other things that their employees are participating in. Their corporate counsel, has requested that we enter into a specific agreement providing that written permission to allow them to do that. This is a fairly standard agreement that we've used on similar occasions when other entities have wanted to film or to engage in some activity not otherwise covered by our lease agreements whenever someone wants to utilize city property. They do not intend on being particularly evasive. There will be some drone flights that are over during those events so they can capture some good film. But based on their representations, they're intending on using these internal for Georgia Pacific. So we've reviewed the agreement. As I said, it's a standard one that contains all the language that we're used to including in there, as well as proof of certificate of insurance. Should a drone fall on someone or they have a camera on the ground that tips over or something like that, it'll be covered for that purpose. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I recommend approval.
I've got a question.
Tucker.
Would it be appropriate to, and whether it's Georgia Pacific or anybody else, to request that if they got some really good, attractive footage that could be helpful to the city to use as promotional material, that they might share some of that with us?
Sure, I'll be happy to ask.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Good question.
Move for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions from council? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Cale,
Yes?
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Jamie Stout,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 5 passes. Item number 6.
Discuss the appointment of a council member to serve on the Eastern Oklahoma Development District, filling the unexpired term of James Gully, expiring June the 30th, 2019, and take other necessary action.
Again, Mr. Tucker, would you help us out with this item?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Some of you may or may not know that the city of Muskogee does have a seat at the table on the board of directors for the Eastern Oklahoma Development District, known as EODD. EODD is one of 11 councils of government throughout the state of Oklahoma. The intent of this particular COG, as it's known, is to serve as a representative volunteer body for municipalities, county government, state government within the area to come together and come up with best practices, utilize their services sort of like a think tank for ideas that are common for everyone. And I don't know that the city has participated to the full extent over the past few years that it possibly should. When we appointed Mr. Gully to this position, I believe he was one position that had remained vacant probably 5 years before. And it wasn't until we appointed Mr. Gully that we realized that we had a seat on that board. So I don't think we've been getting out what we could out of that COG. I know that in some instances they assist with CDBG granting and implementation of that, as well as I think on one instance they served as our fiscal agent for one of our federal government programs. Is that right?
They are currently our administrator for our EODA grant, which is 43rd and 45th
Right.
Street.
Okay. So Mr. Stewart serves as an alternate to the City of Muskogee position, but we do need an individual member of the council to serve on that as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the dates for their regular meetings along with the time, so I could let you all know that. They are not available on their website. The most current meetings they had were 2014, so I did reach out to them, and they were supposed to send those to me, but they have not yet. So I don't. They do meet monthly. Mike, do you have any recollection?
They're at 5:30, and I think they're Wednesdays, but I'm not positive on that.
Okay. And of course, we can verify that and get that information to the person who's selected.
They are evenings, though.
Okay. All right. And so we put this item because we only have one seat on this board, so it's not one that would go on our regular rotation. So we bring this up to the council for them to consider who might be a good fit to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Gully. Any future terms are of 3 years. And so with that, I'll answer any questions.
So we just nominate someone?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not nominating any of y'all guys.
Would it be appropriate to ask you to bring the material that you've requested to the council, whether formally or not formally, so that we could have an idea about
the time and commitment? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I would suggest in that regard is to table with to take no action, and then we'll put this on directly on City Council as a discussion item, and then we can address it then if that's what you're thinking.
I
Is
think
there
that would be
anybody
more.
that feels like they would like to do that?
Well, I personally would consider it, but like everybody else, I'd like to know what the commitment is and the time threshold and the whole bit.
Can we just nominate you and on contingent that you want it later?
I think it would be appropriate to pass on this. And we'll table it.
I'd support that nomination if you wanted to make it.
I nominate Patrick.
Patrick's not here.
So rather than take no action, perhaps the best course of action would be to forward to council without recommendation.
We need a
So
motion
moved.
in that regard.
Second.
Thank you.
So I got a motion to forward to council without recommendation by Patrick and a second by Mr. Coleman. Are there any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jenny Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Okay, we have recognition of citizens wishing to speak, and I had one from Derek Reed, and I believe you've covered that.
Yes, I withdraw.
You have any other items?
No, I withdraw. Thank you.
Okay, that will conclude our Public Works Committee meeting.
We'll now call to order the special call meeting of Muskogee City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Jenny Boydston.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here?
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1, please.
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the lawsuit styled Deary Vaughn versus City of Muskogee and the District Court for Muskogee County, Oklahoma, case CV-07-1731, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
I'd consider the motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any question or comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. We'll consider ourselves in executive session. If you all would excuse yourselves for us to have this portion of the meeting. We will now reconvene from our executive session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Jenny Boydston.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jamie Stout.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here?
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Regarding item number 1, Mr. Tucker.
Excuse me. Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss the lawsuit styled Deary Vaughn versus City of Muskogee, case number CV-07-1731. After being briefed on the status of that lawsuit and the recent ruling issued by Judge Golden, I believe it would be appropriate for a motion to be made to direct the city attorney to cause an appeal to be filed in this matter once a final judgment has been rendered by the district court.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there comment further? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jenny Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
No.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Jamie Stout.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries, and that concludes our agenda for today. Thank you.